Welcome to Coffee, Culture, and the Capital with Sophia and Greg. As you might know if you've been paying attention to our newsletter or past podcast episodes, the legislative session is officially over. So the podcast is going to be looking a little bit different just for the next few months. Although bills are still sitting on Governor Newsom's desk waiting to either be signed or vetoed. So we'll be keeping you guys up to date with the bills we've been watching and what Governor Newsom does with them through the end of September. But just because the legislative session is over doesn't mean what is happening in California, what is happening in the culture and churches in the Capitol isn't still going on. And a topic we have been talking about endlessly because there's nonstop updates, nonstop issues, is about education and parents' rights in education and what is going on with children in education in the state of California. We've talked about this from school board meetings. We've talked about this from parent notification policies. And this one's a little different. We've talked about it here and there, but we want to give you guys the update about what is going on in the Elk Grove School District, as well as a little recap of what has been happening. So, Greg, what is going on in Elk Grove, and whereabouts is Elk Grove for people that aren't familiar with that school district location?
That's right. Actually, Elk Grove School District, I think, is the sixth largest school district in the state of California, which is I think we have about 60,000 kids in the school district, and it's just south of Sacramento, kind of the suburbs of Sacramento. It reaches out into other little local communities, but yeah, generally just south of Sacramento happens to be where I live, and so I'm in touch with school board members there, and they send me stuff about what's happening. So it's kind of it's a suburb, right? Like many suburbs around bigger cities, and it is a representative of what's happening in lots of other communities in California. So if it's happening in Elk Grove, it's probably happening everywhere. So this is something that came up last year. As you know, the LGBT ideology, especially on gender and sexual orientation, has been infused into school curriculum over the last decade, and that is increasing. It started out with social studies curriculum that was all revamped to include LGBT heroes, and it was holidays and Pride Month, and it seems like every other month they've got something to celebrate, to teach kids that there's not just male and females anymore. There's a whole number of genders you could be, and gender is all based on your feelings. It has nothing to do with your biology. So this kind of attitude, which, the general kid coming to school does not believe. Most kids believe that their biology determine their gender. Most parents are still teaching their kids that. And so they're not questioning until they get to school and they realize, hey, if I'm not like somebody else of the same gender, maybe I must be another gender, right? So there's all this questioning going on now that schools are infusing these ideas into the curriculum. Well, another way they're implementing this ideology is through school clubs. And these school clubs have typically been in high schools. They'll call them gay straight alliance clubs. They're moving down into junior high as well. But now they are moving into elementary school. Most times elementary schools don't have clubs that are student initiated, but sometimes they have clubs, gardening club or chess club or something where kids have fun during after school or during lunch. But there is a concerted effort here in Elk Grove to start LGBT clubs in elementary school, because in the minds of those pushing the ideology, you can know as early as 4 or 5 years old that you are a different gender, or your sexual orientation is, not opposite sex, even though kids are not generally thinking about sexual desires in elementary school before puberty. This is being pushed on. So here's what happened in Elk Grove. Last year, there was a teacher, a third grade teacher in a Pleasant Grove Elementary School. And I know Sophia's going to pull up on the screen a Facebook post by the teacher talking about he was trying to raise some money for his new Rainbow Club. That's what he calls it. He called his club UBU. U, the letter U, then B, then U, which is, hey, you can be anybody you want, right? You come to our club and we're not going to judge. That's the attitude. And so this club was being, this particular third grade teacher actually went around to all the third grade and up, third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade classrooms and personally invited kids to come to a club. And this is what parents found out, that where boys crush on boys and girls crush on girls, but everyone can come. There's going to be great games. It's going to be at lunch, and it's going to be great fun. A safe space, he said, for kids who are LGBT, right, in third grade. And so parents had no, and the kicker was that parents were not told anything about the club.
And for all of you that are just listening in on podcasts and not watching on YouTube, if you want to head over to YouTube, you can kind of see what we're showing on the screen. But if not, like Greg said, this is the Facebook post from the teacher. And so what the post says is, "Hi all, I'm starting a UBU Club, also known as a Rainbow Club, at my school so LGBTQ students have a safe space to be themselves. But I actually need something for them to do there. So I'm asking for you to please consider donating some board games through this website or sharing this project with people you know. All the research we have shows that something like this actually reduces bullying across the whole school. So all students will benefit." And Greg, though, as Greg pointed out, and we're going to talk more and show more evidence that points to this, is, again, this club, he was promoting it as boys who crush on boys and girls who crush on girls. And why are we talking about sexuality and all of that with third graders?
Right. Or I mean, even if you had a club started like for boys who crush on girls and girls who crush on boys, it's like you're having a relationship class, right? With like, what in the world are you going to be talking about? You're trying to get boys and girls to hook up and be in relationships with each other. I mean, even in opposite sex relationships, that would be inappropriate. Like, what are we doing? So parents heard about this from their kids. They go, "Hey, Mom, guess what? We learned today they're going to have a UBU club, and it looks really fun. They have really cool games." Like these were coming from Christian parents who go, "What?" And so they called up their principal and they called up their teacher, and here's another thing. Well, here's the. Before that, I did a little research on this Daniel Bishop guy, just to see what kind of teacher is out there on Facebook trying to get people to donate to this club. And I found, if you see, he also posted. He posted August 6, 2002. I did a screenshot. He says, What's that?
2022.
Oh, yes. Sorry. 2022, not 02. He says, "I think I found my back to school shirt." And he's got this picture of a shirt that says, "I'm the teacher Fox News warned you about." Interesting. He's obviously, this is a teacher who doesn't really care about what parents think. He's got an agenda. So that's just a side note.
Yeah.
So parents contacted the principal. I got some screenshots on our up here that from the principal of this school. Her name was Deborah Wood, and a couple things these emails reveal. These emails are written to some of the parents who are complaining. First, she admits that this club. This isn't the only one in the district. There are 5 to 10 other elementary schools with similar clubs, right? And she admits, and then she also said, we were going to tell parents in the newsletter, but we never got around to it. right? And so that was a lame excuse. Probably we assume it wasn't told to parents because they assume parents might object, right? So they didn't tell parents, and so and they didn't initially think that they had to tell the parents anything, that they weren't obligated. Because as we've been talked about before, the Attorney General has been telling schools that children have privacy rights from their own parents, and that schools are obligated to keep the gender identity and sexual orientation of children expressed at school. Those expressions are to keep secret from parents, because 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 8-year-olds have privacy from their own parents, which is a ridiculous concept. And we can get into that. But so what happened immediately is that 30 parents showed up at the principal's office a couple days later after they invited all the kids to this club, and they were pretty furious, and asked for an explanation. And 30 parents, that's a lot of parents to come in the middle of the day on during a meeting that only a few, they didn't announce it to everybody. They just wanted to talk to a couple parents who had concerns, and 30 parents showed up. So they knew they had a problem on their hands. And then they decided initially to, okay, we're going to put this on hold until we talk to our attorneys to see. And here's what parents wanted. We just want our permission, you to require that we sign a permission slip before a child can go to one of these clubs. That's all they wanted. They wanted information, and they wanted the kids to be kept from this club unless they gave permission. Now, that seems reasonable, doesn't it? I mean, you have to get a permission from parents to have your kids take an aspirin or any medical treatment, to go on a field trip, right? Parents need to be involved. And so they ended up, a friend of mine named Dean Broyles, he runs an organization, and he's an attorney, a constitutional law attorney. He has a law organization called the National Center for Law and Policy. And he got involved offering advice. And we went to a school board meeting. I helped organize all the parents to come to a school board meeting and speak at the meeting in opposition to this. And just one more thing I want to show you on the screen here is that once the school district, we found out the other schools, elementary schools in Elk Grove, were having LGBT clubs, we started asking parents, hey, do you see clubs in other places? And one parent took this picture of a flyer that was in Markoffer Elementary School, and they had a rainbow club. And as you can see here, and I'm going to read off this flyer, here's what it says. It says, join the Markoffer Rainbow Club. Has this big rainbow, and then it says, it says where the meeting is. It's at lunchtime. It's for 5th and 6th graders, and here's how it's advertised: a safe, healthy, anti-bullying space for all children, fun, games, and learning with friends. Now, that doesn't mention anything about sexual orientation or gender identity. It's like, hey, come to this club if you're being bullied and you want a safe place to go. All kids are welcome. And then this seems to be the most deceptive advertising. Does it not? I mean, hey, come to my club, you vulnerable kid who needs a place to belong, and and we'll have some learning with friends, and you also learn about you can be 1,000 different genders, and who knows, you might be gay or lesbian too. I mean, and the parents not know what the heck is being taught, and this flyer doesn't really tell you what's being taught either. So I can keep going. Did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I just want to know, as we're talking about these parents that are saying we just want to have to know about the club and sign permission for our child to be there. We're not talking about 18-year-olds. We're not talking about college students. We are talking about this flyer specifically 5th and 6th grade, but what was happening at the other school where they originally found the UBU Club, 3rd graders. Those are 8-year-olds. So it's not a stretch to say, hey, if my 8-year-old wants to join this club that's all about sexuality, I want to be able to sign off on that. I think that's the bare minimum to ask, that I want to be informed about the clubs that my 8-year-old has the opportunity to just go in and out of. And like Greg said, it's these flyers, what they're talking about, it doesn't show what the club's really going to be about. I mean, you read that sign and it says a safe, healthy, anti-bully space for all children. I mean, I have strong beliefs where I stand on these issues because of my Christian values. If I was a 6th grader and I went into that space and I'm like, oh, here's a safe, healthy space where we're not going to be bullied, and they start talking about transgender ideology, and I was like, well, I think only boys can be boys and only girls can be girls, I would be the one getting bullied. So it's really a one-way highway with the situation. It's you either get in line, agree with us, and we'll make sure you feel safe and loved and cared for and all of that. But if you disagree, now you're the bully, you're the bad person, and we're going to shame you until you choose to agree with us. So, and at the end of the day, this is too much for, again, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds to be going through, to be discussing with grown adult teachers about the boys and girls they like and their sexuality and all this. I mean, this is just beyond nonsense. But as Greg mentioned earlier, this is not just happening in Elk Grove. I mean, I'd go as far as to say it's probably happening in every single school district in the state of California. I mean, I've seen school districts that are in very conservative areas, very red voting areas and all that, and you're still seeing this happen because there's teachers that want to push this agenda and put this into the schools.
Right.
But Greg, after this flyer, we had some pushback, and what did we see happen next?
Right. So this kind of blew up in the news, and I was sending out emails to folks I knew, and I know some teachers in the school district, and they sent me this flyer that was being sent out to elementary school teachers to the schools. It was a webinar that they were offering to teachers to how, it's titled Responding to Resistance, right? And there it is, the rainbow again. And it says a virtual training on advocating for LGBTQ youth. And they've hired a programming specialist from Oakland to teach teachers. And it says participants will learn how to respond to resistance against rainbow clubs, how to use the laws, the ed code, district policy, and best practices to advocate for LGBT youth, how to affirm and openly support our LGBTQ youth, right? And it's from the district has a youth development office. Now, this is the office that is pushing this agenda into all the elementary schools. This is a concerted effort under the guise of anti-bullying and making kids feel safe. They are using, like, who could be against that? No one's against that. No one should be against kids feeling safe in their school, even if they identify as LGBT, or nobody should be bullied, right? But under those titles, they are seeking to train and to recruit people into a new belief system, right? And who the only people who they deem, let's say, resistant to this new ideology are the parents themselves. And so now they're offering training to teachers on how to respond to these resistant parents, these parents who, are uncomfortable with this. Well, so they're going to teach them techniques to get these parents to, not be so upset, and of course they have all these euphemisms, love and acceptance, and hey, you don't want to hate on people, do you? Right? I mean, that's how they shame Christians into silence, or any parents who have objections to the sexualization of their kids, they just frame it in a way that makes you look like the bad guy. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. And I just think it's beyond ridiculous. If you're see the screen, you can see the flyer that says responding to resistance. And it just like when I see that line, like it feels like it's like responding to resistance, like dun dun dun. Like it seems like this resistance is like this big evil dark cloud that's like resisting this. In reality, it's parents that are just saying, I want to know what clubs my little kids, my little 8-year-olds are joining, and I want to be informed on them, and I want to just sign off saying if it's okay for them to join it or not. Like, it's beyond ridiculous how this flyer turns it to. In reality, it's responding to parents that have different beliefs. I mean, that's all it is. It's two different sets of beliefs here. It's two different sets of values, and parents are just saying, I want the right to know what my child is up to and what clubs they're going to during lunchtime while they're at school. But according to this flyer, they're the resistance, and it's beyond ridiculous how they're framing teachers. But shockingly, we have some good news to the end of this story, correct, Greg?
That's right. Parents showed up, about 40 to 50 parents showed up at the school board meeting and spoke about their desire to simply be notified and to be in charge of whether their kids go to one of these clubs. And they want to know what's going to be taught, because that's another thing. Parents have no idea what is going to be taught in these clubs. And so Dean Broyles with National Center for Law and Policy also sent them a letter saying that, you either stop all these clubs because they're age inappropriate for children to be delving into these controversial topics, and at the very least, you change the policy so that no one can go to this club without parental permission. It's an opt-in. You have to opt in to go to the class. So he also did a Freedom of Information request to get all the conversations going on behind the scenes, the advocacy for and against these kind of clubs. And we're going to be revealing a bunch of that later. But just last week or earlier this month, the Elk Grove School District has put out a proposed policy which actually changes their policy and says that all elementary school clubs, any participation is going to require parents to sign off. So that's a big win, right? If parents would have said nothing, if they hadn't have stood up and asked for transparency, the schools would have done it in secret, right? But they stood up, they got organized, and with our help, we helped organize the media, sent out press releases. We had really good media coverage around here. CBS News did several stories on this, and I know that they're covering the story now. So on September 17th, which is next week, this item is going to be on the agenda, and school board members will have a chance to say, give final approval to this new policy that requires opt-ins for elementary school clubs. So this is a big win. The only problem we have with it so far is that the new policy says if an elementary school teacher has an idea for a club, they have to tell the principal what the purpose is, what curriculum they're going to use, what are the activities, all the details. But those details are not required to be posted online, and those details are not required to be given to the parents. Well, you need to do that, because you know how deceptive these clubs are. You saw the flyer. They advertisement as a fun place to be with friends. Okay, well, that's not what the club is about, right? You got to be honest, and you got to tell parents, if they're going to say yes to a club, you got to tell them everything that's going to go on in the club. So we hope to push for that at next week's meeting. But this is a big win, and so proud of the parents that stood up. And at first they were really nervous. They had never spoken in public before, but they did. They got up there. They spoke, and they did a great job, and they changed a policy that the school district was trying to sneak through. So
Absolutely.
good
That's
job, parents.
yeah, it's great news and a great win in California. And that just shows, I hope it gives you, if you're a parent right now and your child is in public education, it gives you hope that you can win and we can push back to the nonsense that's happening in schools right now.
Right.
And there is hope and there are things that can be done. But with that, we will see you all next time.